George Lucas is an old friend. I had gone to film school with him, and Gloria Katz, my wife slash writing partner, and I had written American Graffiti with him. So, we felt very comfortable, and this was another collaboration.
After American Graffiti, George had said that he had found this comic book about a duck from outer space that lands in Cleveland. And he said it was just, he thought it was very funny. And he thought it was kind of very film noir with this absurdist element. And we sort of forgot about the idea. But then by the sort of early 80s, we began to think, well, maybe there is, as ridiculous as this idea sounds, maybe there is something that would be very entertaining in this film and very unusual.
I think the attraction was that it was going to be entertaining and fun and sort of off the wall. I mean, it was very different than the things we had been working on previously. So we looked forward to that.
Are you ready for an incredible story?
Help! Somebody help!
This is obviously no place for an intelligent, sensitive duck.
Well, Steve Gerber, we met with him and talked to him about the comic book and how he saw Howard's journey on Earth. And, he had a very unique sense of humor.
So Gloria and I sat down and started working on stories. Actually, the original story that we came up with was Howard in Hawaii, because we thought it'd be sort of fun to shoot there.
And we didn't really want to explain why Howard ended up on Earth. But, everybody in the movie business being very literal, you have to start from Duck World, explain what happened to Howard. And we sort of were resistant to that, but we had no choice.
So we actually went back and rewrote it. We actually used quite a bit of the original story of how Howard arrived from the Steve Gerber comic. And there was always sort of goofy humor, and there was a love story, and yet there would be suspenseful, darker elements too. So we incorporated all of those, and it was a juggling act.
Listen!
Huh?
You got someplace to go?
Hey, if I had someplace to go, I certainly wouldn't be in Cleveland.
Casting Beverly was interesting because I think we looked at every young woman, every young actress, dancer, singer, because she was in this group Cherry Bomb, which is a group we had to put together. So we did a lot of casting. We saw a lot of beautiful girls.
I remember I was running around at thrift stores trying to buy stuff to audition with so that I could look like a cross between Madonna and Cyndi Lauper. I remember trying so hard to find rosaries and weird jewelry and everything for my big audition at Willard and Gloria's house for Beverly Switzler.
Well, we loved Leah in Back to the Future, and George really loved Leah also. And we thought that Leah personally has a great sense of humor.
When I got the part, they sent me a bunch of the comic books, which I thought were hilarious and really funny and irreverent. And I read the script. It was a very, very, very hot project at the time. I beat out a lot of girls. I mean, plus I got to play a rock star, which was really fun.
Part of the casting process was to get young women who looked like they would be in a group and could play instruments and so forth. And Leah actually learned to do it.
I really wasn't a singer, and I had to work really hard. They worked me every single weekend, and they kept threatening me that they might not let me really do the singing. Even halfway through the shooting, I don't think they were entirely convinced whether they were going to keep my voice, and they did. And I was a dancer. I grew up as a ballet dancer, so the dance part was fun and easy, except for I had a very, very heavy guitar that I had to play with, and it kept bashing me in the leg.
Hickory dickory dock. He ain't about to be plucked.
Tom Dolby was great. He was our music director, and he worked with the group, and he put together a group that I thought was good.
You know, he did sort of avant-garde rock and roll, and so he was there almost the whole time helping us do the musical score and helping choreograph all the movements.
Listen to me, small visitor. I can explain how you got here.
Jeffrey Jones, of course, is a great character actor. We had seen him in Amadeus and thought he would be fantastic in this role. He had a lot of range.
You know, for me, playing the part that I played, which was really two different people, but inhabiting the same body, the kindly scientist, kind of distant Dr. Jennings, and the dark overlord of the universe who inhabited his body. It was great fun, because it did actually have an arc and a development, and plus the fact it was very extreme, so I loved being the Dark Overlord of the universe, who incidentally Willard referred to as the dirty underpants of the universe.
You think that's funny, Jennings?
I'm not Jennings anymore. The transformation is complete. I am now someone else.
Jeffrey was, I think, an inspired choice, and he was really into it. He worked on the voice. He was very concerned about how the monster would evolve. And it was difficult because, again, when you shoot out of sequence, he's always thinking, what part of my transformation am I in?
Yes, soon the Dark Overlords will engulf the Earth.
Tom and Barry Berman, who were the makeup artists, we talked with Willard and Gloria, and they came up with a progression of looks when the appliances would change shape and get more pronounced. And there were teeth, and there were lenses, and a wig. And as far as the progression was concerned, it's just acting.
I want to see your license, Jack.
I have no license. I am not Jack.
The terrible thing was my daughter was about 4 years old, and we wanted her to come to the set. And every time she saw Jeffrey, she would start to scream and cry and get hysterical. And Jeffrey really, really felt bad.
It was pretty terrifying to see him in makeup eating lunch. It was something.
He took my eggs.
Oh.
God. Listen, everybody. This is it. I've just seen it. It's in there. It's
Tim Robbins, we discovered in auditions.
It's nothing! It's nothing! Never mind! Carry on, Doc.
And Tim really understood the script, understood how silly and absurd it was going to be. And he was just a kid out of UCLA. And, you know, I thought, this is a really, really gifted actor.
Howard!
People knew that there was this guy who was up and coming, and he came in and gave a great reading. And for Tim, because he hadn't worked on so many movies, it was a little bit harder because he was obviously, as all actors are, anxious and trying to do his best. And he really worked very hard and was very concerned that he was doing a good job.
Howard, can you burn a hole through this with some kind of eye laser?
I just remember having a lot of fun with him. He's a great guy, and I was really happy to have spent all that time with him. He's so tall and strong. I remember he could go like this with me. He could like push me, like press me. He was very strong. You wouldn't think he is so strong.
Look at this wonderful exhibit. It's so lifelike and realistic.
Bug off!
The other thing that we had talked to George for years about, should we do this live action or should we animate it? And we really wanted to animate it. But Universal needed a picture for that summer, and there's no way, you know, you need years and years to do an animated picture. So George said, well, we can build the duck, we can do it with the technology that we have.
In those days, you didn't have CGI as much. So we were left with using puppets and doubles in Howard the Duck costumes.
So we're building various ducks, and the ducks are constantly exploding or losing feathers, or the proportions of the duck are wrong. And we had very, very little prep time.
This does not bode well.
I regret that the technology wasn't as far as it should have been, and we realized that right away. The first day, I think at that time it was really more of a puppet. It was actually somebody who had things inside of Howard, and so we're shooting, and suddenly Howard opens his mouth and his whole neck opens, and it's like the Terminator. You see the inside of, and we're just, everybody's silent because, you know, it's a disaster.
And then we thought, oh my God, this is going to take the rest of our lives. And that's what George said too. He said, we always start out with puppets, and then we think, oh God, this is horrible. Just put him in a suit.
And Howard got better. The head got better, and the puppeteers were better, and the little people were. We'd reshoot it. We'd say, okay, we've got half an hour. Let's do that scene where he says X. We'd put Howard back in again, put a background behind him, no matter where we were. And we were constantly reshooting, trying to get Howard to be better all the time.
You know, this is beginning to seriously undermine my self-esteem.
In order to cast Howard, we had essentially a person who was devoted only to going around the country to find little people and to give them essentially acting tests and tests to see how they would move. And we found a very gifted 12-year-old kid who was very, very inventive. But a child really had too much trouble with the claustrophobic nature of the suit, and it just became too difficult. So then we had the stand-in duck, which was Ed, and Ed had just a wonderful personality, would do anything possible to make something work, and so we ended up really shooting the majority of the material with him.
Talk about an identity crisis.
Yeah, I remember my first audition for Howard the Duck. Universal Studios had contacted me, and I went in, and they were pleasant. How are you? Da da da. And it was more physical. It wasn't an acting audition. It was, can you jump? Can you run? Can you tumble? And I was very agile then. And I said, well, thank you. Nice, no problem. Nice to see you. And you're waiting for the response, and then I get a letter stating that I was too tall. I'm 3 feet 4 inches tall, and they were looking at that time for 3'2" or under. And then called me back, and then they wanted to consider me for a stunt double or understudy for a person that they had found. I was kind of like the backup, and then eventually took over the role.
The boy, who I think was 12, it was very difficult. The shooting conditions were really hard, so to wear this thing all day was hard. Plus, you're limited in the hours. You'd have to have schooling, and he could only be on the set for a certain amount of hours.
And then so I would shoot at night for him. I would do the stunts and stuff. Then the editor was saying he's having problems matching, where I would talk like a man. I would put my hands and cigar, and just, that's the way Howard was. And the other kid would get up, he'd walk away, he'd just be very buoyant. He's a child.
Plus, I was supposed to be in love with them, so I was much happier when Ed was in there because Ed was sweet and he worked really, really, really hard. And it was just easier to get through the day and imagine that I was in love with this duck when it was Ed.
We also had a young woman, a little person, who did stunts. And she was really sort of this stunt woman doing Howard. So it was a combination of a lot of different things. And it was like the Man in the Iron Mask. They had to wear this helmet.
I think it was like one of the first fully self-contained animatronic suits, meaning it wasn't connected by hardwire. The motors were in the head, the cables ran up my back, I wore a battery belt, and it was all remote control.